Welcome to Ask the Author, Why Your Book, a program brought to you by thewritersmall.com, a directory of authors and writers. We have with us today David Bishop. He has nearly 1.5 million books in circulation and is one of Amazon.com's best-selling authors in the mystery genre. Hi, David.
Hello.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Why your book?
As opposed to my book, obviously, because I'd prefer people to read mine, but they always have a choice as to which book they read. So I strive to create fascinating characters, the kind that people would like to invite to their next dinner party, and then create some unusual circumstance, place my invented people in that circumstance, and work the story through in a way that will be entertaining for the reader.
And how many books do you have written at this point?
I have 20 out. I'll have 22 out by this summer.
Oh, you write 2 books at a time?
I frequently write 2 or 3 at a time until I'm about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through, and then I'll pick one and finish it up.
Do you have a set time for writing?
No, not really. I write whenever I have time, when I'm not playing golf or I'm not doing something else. But one way or another, I work on my writing career about 50 to 60 hours a week.
Well, that sounds like a full-time job. When can you get the golf in?
Well, fortunately, you can write anytime. You can get up at 6 in the morning and write, or you can write at 10 o'clock at night. So whenever I don't have anything else to do, I write.
And how do you find your characters, your heroes and your heroines?
I sort of find them in my head and also observing people. And you just invent the people you want to be, and you give them the tics and talents you want them to have, and then you write their story.
What fun. I see that one of your authors or heroes is Matt Kyle, and you've done about 7 books with him.
That's correct.
But now you're turning him into a co-author. You've become really good friends.
Well, in a manner of speaking, some people say my best friends live in my head. But I write Matt Kyle, and as a character, he's a detective, but also an author. So readers have started to write to me and say, how come we never see anything written by Matt Kyle if he's an author? So I decided, why not have some fun, and I'll make him a co-author on a few shorter stories that I've written.
And what are those short stories?
One is called Money and Murder. One is called The Twists and Turns of Matrimony and Murder. And one is called Scandalous Behavior.
And are these books up on Amazon where people can find them?
Yes, all my books are on Amazon as ebooks, digital, and they're also in print books, and 5 of my 20 are on audiobook, and the rest are coming on audiobooks in the next months.
Now that is exciting. Also, that is an awful lot of work between golf sessions.
Yes, it is.
Are any of your books autobiographical?
Oh, I suppose there's a little bit of an author in every story they write, but no, my story would be a lot more boring than those of my characters.
Do you have a publisher?
I am my own publisher. More than half of all the new genre fiction that comes out today are written by what's effectively called self-publishing authors.
And how did you get so many books into circulation?
Well, I think it begins with writing a good story and telling it exceedingly well. Then you just continue to keep that character alive and put him in interesting situations and try to tell good stories that people will find entertaining.
You mentioned that you have these books in circulation in other countries in the world. Do you have them translated into other languages?
No, I publish only in English, but primarily sell in the U.S. and then the U.K. Canada is big, Australia, New Zealand, and India is very large also. They're usually my 4th or 5th largest. I'll sell 100 to 120 books a month in India, and it's usually my 4th or 5th largest selling country.
That is incredible. We're going to take a break right now and be back in just a moment.
All right.
Hi, welcome back. We're talking with David Bishop. David, how do we find your books and how do they compare with other famous author books that people may be familiar with?
Well, of course, my opinion would be my books are better than any author's. But speaking more humbly, the best way to get that information is to see what readers say. Many readers rate and write reviews on books that they've read. As far as the ratings that readers have given my books, they compare equally or higher than John Grisham's or David Baldacci's or James Patterson's or Nora Roberts. And so the readers are saying my books are equally as entertaining. The other point of comparison probably is mine cost about $10 less than the big name authors, because I don't need to take money from readers and give it to publishing companies, publicists, literary agents, and various assistants I have on staff to help me. So the reader, when they buy my book, is only paying for the entertainment of the read, not for a lot of support staff who provide other services to the author.
Do you have support staff?
No.
You are a self-published author.
Yes. And I essentially do all the things myself, but I have a lot of readers with various expertise who help me from time to time, and I have people who provide editing services and critique services and things of that sort.
Can we find your books in bookstores?
Rarely. The way the publishing business, the book business is today, it's very difficult for a self-published author to get into bookstores because the big publishers make a deal with the bookstores. You buy books from us you wish you hadn't, tear the covers off, send them back to us, the covers, and we'll give you credits for all the books that you want, that you send back that way, and you can use those credits to buy other books. As a self-published author, I can't offer that.
So where can we find your books?
On Amazon, in either ebook or print, an audiobook, and online you can buy them from Barnes & Noble, from Apple, from Kobo, or any number of other sources online, but not in the bookstore because, again, bookstores don't want to take books that they can't return and get credits.
How about on your website?
My website has all my books on them and a lot of information about them, and they link directly to Amazon, but the purchase is not from my website. Technically, it's from Amazon.
Okay. Well, your website is davidbishopbooks.com
That's correct.
and listing on thewritersmall.com. Had to get that in.
Sure.
How about the New York Times bestseller list?
No, not really. Self-published authors rarely get there. The New York Times bestseller list is interestingly not based upon best-selling books. They're based on books sold to bookstores. So if, for example, Barnes & Noble were to order 100,000 copies of a particular book, that immediately goes to the New York Times bestseller list as 100,000 sales, when in fact it's one sale of 100,000 copies. And that sale is to a bookstore, not to readers. And some of those may never get read. They may have the covers torn off and sent back for credits.
How do you do your research?
On the internet, my own experience in either the subject or the locale. Also, sometimes I travel to the sites.
How far have you traveled? Out of country?
I haven't gone out of country. Well, I actually went once in a country that had a glass blowing shop, and I did research with the glass blowing shop owner as to how he did certain things, and I was able to use that in one of the scenes in one of my stories. But mostly it's just inside the United States. I've traveled to Washington, D.C., Oregon, Texas, various places, unless I'm already familiar enough with those places to not need to.
When you have to go to a new place, is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Sometimes the story is written on a make-believe place. You just invent a city, or a country, and you put it there.
And that can be fun.
It is. You just have to be careful that you keep careful track of the city you created so you don't have the same business on two different streets and things of that sort.
Do you keep very detailed notes?
When I do that, yes, I'll usually draw out the city. So if there's a one-way street, I know where it is and I don't have someone driving the wrong direction. Things like that.
How long does it take you to finish a story or a novel?
Great question. The amount of time varies by the research. And some of the research is very interesting. And I find myself sometimes researching beyond the point I need for the story. But some stories take less. But if I could write 40 hours a week, to put this in some context, it would probably take me about 4 to 5 months to write the story. But some take longer, and then there's always time taken off to come and chat with you, to answer emails from readers. So some of your writing time gets drawn out in other writing-related functions that are not actually creating a story.
What advice could you give other writers at this point?
Write good stories exceedingly well. Write about fascinating characters. And in the beginning, when someone decides they're going to become an author of fiction, writers should be spending about a third of their writing time in researching and studying the craft of writing. No one would think that because someone knows how to talk, that they are therefore qualified to be a movie star. But yet many people think because they know how to write that they're qualified to be an author star. But you need to study your craft and learn how to do it correctly, because in the end, practicing doing something wrong doesn't make you good at it.
But practicing it right makes you very good at it.
It does. And the way you learn what right is by studying the craft. We all read books and think, golly, this doesn't look hard. But if you watch anyone good at something, whether it's crocheting, hitting the golf ball, they make it look easy. But it really isn't. So you have to study the craft and learn how to do it, and then practice that.
Well, good advice, and thank you so much for your time and for being with us here today.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching Ask the Author Why Your Book, brought to you by thewritersmall.com, a directory of authors and writers.